All right, I think we're live, Meredith. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for being with me here today.
Thank you for having me, and hi to everyone watching.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm excited to speak with you about your children's book. I think that's so awesome that you're a children's book author. A Gift to Remember,
Yes,
and it's a Christmas story, right?
it is.
Awesome. And it was published June, I think it was, right?
Yes, middle of June it came out.
Awesome. So how was that? So you published kind of in the midst of, similar to what I did, my book published in July. So you kind of published in the midst of all the uncertainty and the pandemic and all that good stuff. So how was that entire experience?
Well, I'm sure you had a similar feelings and mindset I did of, should I do this? Should I finish this out? Should I launch it now? My original intention was to launch it in July, sort of a Christmas in July marketing endeavor. And the book, was completed, and I just thought to myself, what a better time in the world to put something bright out there that has a great message. And yes, it's Christmas based, but we were all home, we were all together. And so I just decided, and after, talking with my family, and they were encouraging, like, don't stop, don't put the brakes on. And I'm sure, I don't know if you felt that way too, of should I just hold off? And yeah, and they just said, go for it.
Cool.
Yeah. So I didn't know sort of how the response or anything at that time. But it ended up being just incredible to see the support and people posting reviews, and that it did so well in a launch in the middle of June.
That's awesome. I noticed that you've got a ton of 5-star reviews.
Yes.
How did you pull that off?
Wonderful people.
And probably good writing and illustration, right?
Yes. Yes. I was just blown away, to be honest with you, with the reviews. I think inevitably, as an author, you have to be okay with constructive criticism. I have a background in ballet, so that's kind of been a natural part of my life, and it can always, make you better. So I think I sort of expected a lot, just some not 5-star reviews, and but yes, and when I read them, they just make my heart soar. And
Awesome.
To talk about the writing, like you're saying, and because it is done in rhyme, which can be very challenging for an author. And then, the illustrations, Hubert is just extraordinarily talented. And so naturally those, of course, are going to get 5-star reviews.
Right.
Illustrations.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I just noticed last night I was looking at my Goodreads listing and I had a 2-star review. Mm-hmm. And some constructive criticism. But I give the gal who did it a lot of credit. She's like, I love self-help books. They can be very motivational, but she's like, but this one, like, this one is too time consuming. I don't have this kind of time. But she's like, I could see if I did where it, there's a few helpful. I'm like, okay, well, at least she rounded it out a little bit. But yeah, it's always like, ooh. And I had a 1-star on Amazon, I think like a couple of weeks after my book published, and in the headline was "Don't bother." They come in, they happen. It is what it is, And then I actually went and looked at some of the other reviews that she did, and I felt a little bit better about myself, because she was just one of those types of people who are just out to, say bad things about all sorts of products and books and authors. And but it happens, and we have to grow a little bit of tough skin, if and when it does. But you've got a great track record. I mean, that's incredible. I saw that. I'm like, I have to ask her how she's doing that. So did you have like a advanced reader campaign, or did you have a launch team or anything like to support you in the launch?
I did. So I was a part of an online training school called Self-Publishing School. And it just sort of helped me walk through the process of publishing, and just super valuable. So I had a lot of launch team members from people, getting to know people in that community.
Oh, that's cool.
And then some friends and family. I didn't want to just, it's hard, if you're an author, you kind of know it's tricky asking your friends and family for a lot. But I did have some of them, and
I feel like a network marketer selling jewelry or something. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I just, I sort of formed a launch team and just said, hey, I am doing Christmas in the middle of summertime. Who's on board? And, and of course I said, leave an honest review. If it's not your favorite book, it's good for me to know that and know why. But I was just so fortunate to have that community behind to sort of get it out of the gate. And then reviews of people that I don't know who they are. I wish I did, because they're just such lovely reviews. I wish I could say thank you. But just strangers started reviewing the book and still are to this day. So I'm pretty fortunate in that regard.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So that tells me the book's selling. So what are some of the efforts you're doing to help promote the book and to sustain those sales, right? Because it's been, what, 4 months?
Yeah. So, I had to sort of be creative in the beginning because it is Christmas and it wasn't the season for it.
Right.
And so, of course, Christmas in July helped that, because that really is a thing, especially here in the United States where I am. So that helped. And then that was sort of my goal, was how do I sort of build a solid foundation for this book leading up to the holidays.
Sure.
I didn't expect massive sales, from August till now, essentially, or mid-October, just because people aren't really looking that much for Christmas books. But how can I continue to still market it and get continuous sales so that it can stay within a certain parameters, like on Amazon, and so that the book is still noticeable and it doesn't fall out of conversation.
Sure.
So social media, of course, helps that endeavor a lot. So really just continuing to talk about the book there. I started dabbling into podcasts and really have loved that experience, and to just talk about the book and just have great conversations with people like yourself.
That's awesome.
And then just doing a little bit of doing some guest writing and things like that. So just kind of unique, not necessarily always book specific marketing, just to grow that conversation that I'm out there, my book's out there,
Sure.
knowing that mid-October, then people start to, naturally look at holiday books.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So I feel like podcasts are, for many authors, somewhat of a holy grail. It's like that thing that we're always told that we should be consistently exposing our, books to as podcast audiences. So what are some of the things that you've done over the past few months that have been successful as far as getting scheduled on podcasts?
Yeah, so I think any debut author is a little nervous to just contact people directly. But as you've been told, just do it, and just introduce yourself, introduce your book, what it's about. And so I just kind of started sending emails. Hey, this is my book. And then using also, what else have I done in my life, with ballet or any, building community programs, working at a local school. So just talking to people, and then inevitably, all of a sudden, I started booking podcasts, and I didn't understand sort of that myth you're talking about of like the Holy Grail. I didn't quite fully understand it until I saw it firsthand, and I was on the first one, and I can see how quickly that can aid an author to reach an audience like those watching today. I've
Sure.
never heard of me before, probably not. And so really just like reaching out and really researching the people who are hosting the podcast too. I was really cautious on, am I someone that they're even interested in? Because that's just a waste of their time too, for me to be emailing them. What is their podcast about? Is there a correlation? So it took some time to research, but well worth the time.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting for those of you who are watching and listening. I think it's interesting what Merideth just said. There's more angles than just the book to get on podcasts. She talked about ballet. She talked about her community involvement. And I've found the same thing to be true. While my book is, self-help, personal development, intentional living, there's also different angles, and I've been on business, like B2B type podcasts with entrepreneurship and B2B and things of that nature, productivity type podcasts. So there's all sorts of different entry points. It's not just about, like in Meredith's case, a Christmas book and being a children's author. There's a lot of different avenues that she could potentially get on a podcast with. And then obviously through that introduction, she's most likely being introduced, right, as a children's author.
Yes.
And her book will naturally come up in those conversations. So I really think that's an important distinction there, that there's more angles than just one, right? Because you probably have a lot of different passions, hobbies, interests, background, job, career-related things, more entry points, right?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I wouldn't have discovered it until I really just dove into that. But all of a sudden I would research someone that maybe really wanted to have conversations about parenting. And I have 2 young boys, and what's it like to be a career mom, or, just many different angles. So it also was refreshing to be on the podcast, because you're not coming there to just talk about your book. You're talking about all sorts of things. And it just opens the door for such neat conversations. And yes, inevitably you're introduced as an author, and they're so sweet, and they talk about your book and ask you about it. And so it's been neat to see. Yeah,
it gives other people a chance to get to know you, right, as a human being, and not just this, author status, right? It gives people a chance to get to know you more intimately, which is so important. So what would you say? Let's see. So the book published in June. Throughout the entire process, the planning, the writing, the editing, the illustration work, which I can't imagine. I didn't have any illustrations, and I can't imagine adding that level of complexity and creative, to the process. But throughout all of it, what would you say, like, what's the biggest mistake you've made, or what's the biggest lesson you've learned so far in your journey?
Which mistake?
The biggest one.
Oh, the biggest one. Okay. There's been a lot. So, and
I'm with you.
Yeah. And it's okay. Mistakes are good. You learn from them, and, you learn how to do things better. I think the biggest mistake for me personally was, so for children's books, they are expensive to publish, because you are adding that illustration component. And so, that old tagline of "you get what you pay for." So I kind of tried to save money here and there on little ways. And one of them in particular was the formatting of the book. The illustrator had done so much of the work for formatting. So I tried to just sort of finish it up myself. And that was just a total disaster. And so I ended up having to go find a formatter to fix my work. Okay. So I would say really, I had worked so hard to do quality on every single step, finding a great editor who dealt with children's, books specifically, and rhyming, because that's yet another element to the editing process. The amazing illustrator, I had worked to try to do the best I possibly could on every step, and then I shortchanged
Cut
it.
a corner. Yeah. At the 11th hour, it sounded like.
Yeah, basically. And so that was just, that was probably one of my largest, most time-consuming mistakes to fix. So. Yeah,
I think that's a good one, and I think it's important to understand that. And what I've found was, books are a little bit of a different animal, right? Because if you publish a blog, everything on the web is so fluid. You make a mistake, you just republish the blog post. It's easy, you just update it.
Right.
What I'm finding is oh my gosh, if I have new front matter or new back matter, or any small edit, typo, anything that was missed in between, it's very expensive to go back in there.
Yes.
And I've done my cover, the back description for my book, the cover a few times. And every time I do it, it's a lot of money to engage the design, re-engage the designer, and re-upload my files. I mean, every time you do that. So I think it's important. I like what you said about, not cutting corners and just kind of finding high quality all the way through, because if you can front load that investment you'll save it on the back end. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. So I feel like your book, it is a Christmas book. However, I do feel like you're into an opportunity to write a series. Like I can see you doing an Easter book. I can see you doing, right? So there's a lot of room. Like I'm in my son who's 7, and I got into these, I think it's Timmy Tobson mystery books. And they're really fun, and they've got clues, and they're really interactive. And even my 5-year-old daughter is kind of getting into it now. And I'm pretty sure the author is only published 2, but like, rather than going out and get a new book, we're like, does this guy have any other books? This is fantastic. And he had a second in the series. I hope he writes more, because I think he only has those 2. But if he had 12, we're in. I would buy them all. I'd buy the box set. They're so good, right?
Yeah.
So do you have plans to create a series? First of all, do you have plans? And then also, did you have plans from the onset? Like, was that your initial intention to write for additional holidays or events outside of Christmas?
Sure. No, great question. So I do have another book that'll be coming, barring no unforeseen circumstances, after the turn of the year. So early on in the new year, for Easter, in fact. Yeah.
Good timing on that one.
Yeah, good timing on that
Just
one.
stay away from the edits. Just stay away from the edits. From the formatting, right?
Yeah, formatting. Yeah. So I didn't set out. I wish I could say I was that educated right off the bat. I did not set out to do a series, but as soon as I started really finishing up the manuscript for A Gift to Remember, I thought kind of what you were saying, like, there's more to this than just Christmas, because the message is that it's remembering what's important in life, and that functions all year long. And so I just naturally went to Easter, and it's going to be a very, very unique take and scene of Easter. So which I think is fun and different. So, and then seeing kind of where that series might go after that. But I think it is really important to have a series because of that purpose, because it becomes about more than just one book. It becomes more about just what's that global message. And then also getting back to, like doing podcasts, and you made the comment of having people get to know you. To me, it's a huge honor to have my book on a child's bookshelf, and a family's bookshelf. That to me is just an extraordinary, I know it might sound cheesy, but it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like a series also allows a family to invest in that person, that author, and that illustrator. And so I think having a series also builds that trust between you and a family that I think is so important for, especially children's authors to have, and to earn that trust, of parents. Yeah.
No, I love that. So that's kind of your champagne moment, right? So to speak, is when your book is on the shelf in a child's room. I mean, that's just, I can picture that. It's so cool.
Oh, I mean, just the idea of like Christmas lights up and a family, and that A Gift to Remember's on their shelf, where they're sitting down reading and spending that time together. Or maybe the child is reading it themselves and learning to read. It's just magical. Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So I'm interested in this. I'm in the nonfiction space. I would assume it's self-help genre, right? For lack of a better genre than that. But it's very easy for me to come up with products and programs beyond the book. It's, I run challenges, and I have masterminds, and I have an online course, and I have acceleration group coaching programs. I mean, it's very easy for me to build a business on the back end, right?
Yeah.
And not rely specifically on book sales, because as we all know, it's difficult right now. It's probably more easy than it's ever been, as far as we have direct access to ad channels, podcast exposure. I think the vehicles are in place, and it's easier than it's ever been to market books, but it's still difficult if we're self-published.
Right.
Are you self-published, by the way?
I am.
Yeah, I thought you were. Okay. So what is your vision, if any, for like beyond the book? Are you gonna, like, because I'm picturing you doing like Zoom readings with kids and question and answer sessions with children. Like I can see so many neat things that you could do like once a week, twice a month, bonuses beyond just, hey, you bought my book. Thanks. Hope you enjoy it. More of like a follow-up. So these kids and also the parents can get to know you a little bit better, and you can add some additional joy into their lives. So are you doing anything beyond the book? Have you thought through some of those things, or is it just, no, I'm going to focus on the series and that's it?
No, I definitely have thought beyond the book, because my brain just works that way. So I think reaching children and reaching families is really important, and not just by the book. So I have done some online readings, and I've been lucky. I've gotten to do a couple, and we'll get to do, I have some booked, some in-person readings. It's harder now with everything going on in the world to do that in-person, face-to-face,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And that can be a struggle right now for children's book authors. But I would love, I have many ideas, so I don't know exactly which one I want to end up focusing on first, but I would love to coach eventually about, coach children's book authors that are, debut authors that want to produce a quality book. But on the flip side, there's some really talented children who are very good writers and very good illustrators at very young ages. And I think I've spent a lot of my career trying to give access to children, trying to give access to ballet and dance to children who might not otherwise have had that opportunity. And I feel so similarly and passionate about writing in the same regard. So I would love to develop some kind of programs to work with schools about just the foundations of how do you write a children's book, because kids their ideas are just amazing.
Yeah.
and endless. And so if they just sort of have tools and an outline, you just never know what that's going to spark in a child. I have an 8-year-old son, and he's really big into drawing, really, really, really into drawing. And him watching this whole process, he's like, well, I want to illustrate your next book. And, just fostering and opening a door for a child to maybe pursue something and pursue passion, might be something I am interested in.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's very cool. That'd be awesome. Well, I feel like it's easier than ever now, given the fact that a lot of us are stuck at home. A lot of us are, using Zoom now. I mean, everybody's a Zoom expert these days. So it'd be really neat to hold some sort of a creative workshop or something like that for kids. I think that'd be really, and I can see you doing that. I mean, that's just a layup for you.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool. That's awesome. Yeah. I was thinking about, so I have, due to a glitch on the week that my book launched, I kind of took the book fulfillment on myself and built like a book funnel sort of a thing on my website and started to sell direct. And it's really neat. So there's like what is it called? Like a one-time offer, an upgrade or an upsell when someone's checking out. And I'm amazed at how often people take the audiobook and the Kindle version at half off. So like they come in, they get the book, and then there's like this one-time offer to get those other two things at half off. And I'm thinking they're not going to want to buy the same book in a different format, but like 30 or 40% of them do. I'm just floored by it, which then I run ads. So that basically offsets my ad costs. And then anything after that is profit. So with someone with what you're doing, like I would, it's so neat. I could see like this author of the Timmy Thompson series, like if he had a video where he's like, hey, there's 5 hidden nuggets in this book. And, for $5 or for 10 more bucks, I have a video where I will share with you what those are, and you can have a 1-page printout. And it's like what is that called? Not a treasure hunt, but a
seek and find.
Yeah, like a seek and find or scavenger hunt.
Oh, scavenger hunt. Yeah.
Like I would do it in a heartbeat, like to enhance the experience of reading the book with my kids. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I could see you doing just something easy like that. Like, with a children's book, it probably takes 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. So, I mean, you could do a video of you reading the book and maybe even providing some context and teaching some lessons on a deeper level. Like I could see so much neat things happening like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So are you selling your book direct from your website, or is it on Amazon and other outlets only?
Right now it's on Amazon and other outlets. I didn't go direct to my website just off the gate because I wasn't sure, you know.
Sure.
So I think that's something that I definitely need to look into in order to be able to kind of do more of those, you know, catered experiences that you're talking about. So hopefully as I'm going into the Easter book and all that, I can, you know, look at all of that at the same time, and eventually make that something that would be available direct from me.
Yeah. Or it could be like a pre-order bonus sort of a thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I could just see a lot of neat creative things like that as far as bonuses or add-ons. You know?
Yeah.
So you mentioned something in your questionnaire about online magazines and how that might be working similar to podcasts as far as moving more copies of the book. So I don't know anything about online magazines. So what's that all about?
So I, you know, again, just sort of wanted to continue to grow my name and my author brand and create a foundation and a solid one. And I was trying to think of creative outlets to, what else can I do? You know, besides, okay, if I don't get podcasts, what else is there? And I listened to a great webinar one day from a really wonderful lady named Susie Moore, and she was talking about how she, you know, yes, she's been on all the TV shows and everything, but she also used to guest write. And I was like, you know, so I started looking into that, and I thought, well, this could be interesting. And I said, well, if anything, it's going to grow me as a writer.
Sure.
So it's really going to benefit me. And then if any articles get picked up, well, great, you know. And so I just I started with a faith-based genre, and I just made an article and I submitted it to an online magazine, which is essentially, and a lot of magazines are online right now just because of, you know, the way the world is right now.
Right.
And the next thing I know, they were like, oh, we love your article. And mind you, I'm writing for adults. So I was like, okay, like, you know, and it got picked up. And then the next thing I knew, it was just like boom, 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 boom. And I'm writing for 4 different publications with 3 months. And then one of them now is like, will you be a regular contributor? We love your work. And so all of a sudden, you know, their audience of 3, 4, 5,000 people might read my article and learn more about me. And then, like I said, I benefit, and I'm so fortunate to have the opportunity because it grows me as a writer, you know, in my voice and just the whole process. And then when you go to my website, let's say you don't know me, you can see, well, what else has she done besides just one, you know, besides just one book?
Right. Yeah.
And
isn't that enough?
I'm like, well, yeah. I know. I'm sure you might get that question of like, so one book, that's it? And I'm like, so, but they can see, oh, she's contributing here. And you know, and that might eventually lead me to maybe do an adult book one day, based on that. So I've really enjoyed it first and foremost, and been grateful for the opportunity, but I see it in a similar way as a podcast of where you're reaching an audience you probably never would have otherwise reached.
So I really like that. I'm glad you brought that up because that hasn't been on my radar screen. Many years ago, I think it was like 2012, 2013, I was writing for Forbes, like in the entrepreneurship column.
Wow.
Well, it was great until it wasn't. I mean, it got to the point where like it was fun and there was this novelty about it, but they wanted one article a week. It got to the point after a long period of time where I was just pumping out content just to hit the quota. And it's like, it started suffering. The writing wasn't great towards the end. And I emailed the editor to see if, you know, could I get this down to 1 or 2 a month? Cause I can't keep up with this demand. And they're like, no, you know, these are the terms. So I unfortunately disengaged. So I really haven't thought about that, but I love what you're saying as far as, so you're calling them online magazines. I would call them blogs, right? But we're talking about somewhat the same thing, because you are truly doing some guest articles on online magazines that have gone a little bit virtual. But I think that's really important as far as contributing. Who is out there that is relevant to your ideal readership? And for you, it's the parents of these children. I mean, they've got the money. You're not targeting 7-year-olds, right? Yeah. So that's smart. You're getting out in front of the parents. You're writing about something you enjoy. At the end of the day, you're honing your craft and you're practicing the art of writing, which is so neat.
Yeah, and I think it's refreshing to me because, like you're saying, it is work. It's a lot of work to write. I don't think a lot of people realize. Not sure I even realize how much goes into one article. But I think what's so neat is it just, as a writer, you just get these ideas that just come out of nowhere into your brain, and all of a sudden you have an outlet to give that message. And it's been really neat. And yeah, some of them were more blog type, but then some are, like, they call them magazine, so but yes, there's either or, because again, you're just reaching a different audience. And again, back to kind of the different facets of a person. I'm not every article I'm writing is not Christmas, I've written one about motherhood. I've written one about, just various topics. I'll probably write one about healthy living, and, so cool. You can do the same thing like a podcast in that regard, and what do you want to write about, and reach out to them.
Yeah. I love that. I went camping with my son last weekend, and I grew up in Chicago on the concrete. I'm not really a camper, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Luckily, there was a handful of dads from our neighborhood that got together, and we did have one gentleman who was like a serious camper. So he kind of just led the charge. Thank goodness he was with us. But I had the best time. Like, now I'm a camper. Like, I'm all in, and I'd like to go again with my family if I can convince my wife. But my son wanted to catch fish. And he was, I don't want to say whining, but he was bugging me about it. Like, Dad, I want to catch a fish, Dad. And it's like, son, you can't catch a fish without a line in the water. It's no use sitting over here by the campfire talking to me about if you want to catch a fish, grab the rod, get by the lake and put the line in the water. You're never going to catch fish without a line in the water. And what you're saying is, like, for me, like a podcast, those are lines in the water. And just like the online magazine, just like contributing, guest blogging to a magazine, whatever it is, those are lines in the water, and these are evergreen lines. That's how you leverage yourself, right? Is you can get on a podcast and forevermore it's out there for people to find. But I think for a lot of us authors, like, our sweet spot and our comfort zone is like sitting behind the computer typing and then not releasing our work. But I love what you're saying. Like, how many lines can I get in the water? Because the more lines in the water, the more exposed I am to people finding me. And that's what we want. Yeah. Right? So I really appreciate you bringing the guest blogging or the contributor vehicle up, because I've been so focused on podcasts and also running ads that I haven't even considered contributing like that.
Well, and what you just said could be an extraordinary article. I'm just using this as an example. So something that comes to a writer, like you're saying about casting a line in the water, well, that could be an extraordinary article for an online blog or magazine about a dad, that wants to feature something about a dad. But the lesson behind casting line in the water, and, you write about it, and it's doing the best you can in life. And so getting all these wonderful things that we sit behind a desk and hold so close. Right?
Yeah.
And then I think it's also just about I've so enjoyed forming relationships with the people who've given me those opportunities to be on the podcast or featured, an article in their magazine, and just being so grateful to them, and even touching base weeks later, just, hey, I just loved it, or, and I just feel we're just so much stronger when we start communicating more, and being so grateful for those opportunities,
Sure. That's awesome. So we talked about a lot of what's working. which is great. But I also want to know what's not working. Like what's your biggest struggle right now? What do you need help with the most right now?
So there's sort of an image where an author kind of has their bubble that they live in. And yes, my friends and family bought my book and it is doing well. I mean, but the image is, how do you get out of that bubble? How do you break that? And for me, that's harder because I haven't been in the writing publishing industry. That's not where my career has been.
Sure.
So I feel like you kind of start from zero, and taking, baby steps. And so for me, it's looking, and the book is doing well, it's trending well. But then how do I break out of that? And I can see how that can happen. There's a wonderful author. Her name's Marcy Pusey. She's been a mentor and coach to me, and she has several children's books out. And she says, really, the number one form of marketing still to this day for children's works is word of mouth. And so I'm looking at it going, okay, I have this bubble, and then how can I get enough word of mouth to break out of that bubble and to get people excited about the book and the books to come, and break that.
Yeah, not easy.
Not easy.
I just had a bit of a download here. So this is totally unrelated, but we can bring it in. I'll land the plane. Give me 20 seconds. So my sister she was on Shark Tank a few weeks ago, which is so cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and she has this little product that is basically a dog waste sheet. It's an alternative to plastic bags, essentially. And what's amazing is her Instagram has blown up because all these people who buy her product will like set the box next to their dog, take a photo, and then either send it to her, post it on their own Instagram and tag her.
Right.
And I thought about just going back to what you're saying as far as breaking out of my, friends and family bubble. I thought about doing that for my book, like putting a little card with it or something, or maybe adding, a piece of back matter that says, hey, and whether it's a contest or something else, but like take a photo of you with the book, receiving the book or whatever it is, and be entered to win something. So I could see you doing something like that, as far as like compiling photos of happy readers. It doesn't have to be with their kids. I think a lot of people might have an issue with privacy on that one. Some people wouldn't, though.
Yeah.
Some people wouldn't. But I could see you doing something like that, where you have just this collection of happy readers who received the book, took a photo and tagged you, or sent it to you so you can use that. Because it's really easy to do that. And then all of a sudden you're tagging those people, and then it's showing up on their feed. I mean, that's a real effective way and it's free, to get the word of mouth going, at least online from a social angle. Right.
Yeah. And I think I'm finding, you just have to kind of start asking people, you just kind of have to be bold and just, hey, would you mind, and like my dream would be that, and I get, because a lot of people don't want to post their children, and I think that's great.
I'm one of them.
Yeah. And it's very important to watch that. But, one of my dreams would be that families start posting what's important to them, that their children, that what's important to you in life, and to post the children's response, and then like hashtag remember, and and tag me, and because then it's to me, it would just be all those wonderful things in life being blasted across social media.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have a call to action to that effect in the book at all?
I have, visit my website for future books and all that. So, this is an afterthought.
Right. Yeah.
But something I can definitely look into, in the future. So it's really just trying to figure out how you get that going. How do you get that trending? And then to sort of burst out of that bubble. To me, when I try to keep my perspectives. I'm a very glass half full type of individual. But I also like to keep my perspectives in check sometimes. And so, my perspective of publishing the book was like, okay, well, so, my main goal was, it was inspired by my sons and their letter to Santa. So my goal was to show them that their little letter of kindness that was so unselfish can make waves. Cool. And that if you put work into something, then, it can be magical. And so to hand them that book was just phenomenal. So my perspective out of the gate, was not to become a New York Times bestselling author. That'd be awesome. But, but I feel like just trying to keep that in check throughout the process, and not trying to get, not getting frustrated that I can't break out of that bubble.
Sure.
I think that would be amazing. And there's times I've looked at Amazon and I saw the rank of the book, and, while I thought I'd be like number 3 million, there's times I've reached, top 10,000 books, and that's amazing to me,
Yeah.
So,
I haven't even
along the way.
Yeah, I haven't even thought or looked. I think outside of launch week, I've just forgotten about the rank. But what's amazing is how easy it is to break through, but then how difficult it is to stay.
Yeah.
You could do a small promotion and boom, your book, you've got a hockey stick as far as the rankings. But then if you don't keep that up, it'll fall fast just as quickly as you broke the ranking, right? Mm-hmm. But it sounds like you're doing a really good job of getting out of the bubble between the podcast, the guest articles that you're doing.
Yeah. I think it's hard. I mean, Christmas is a hard genre. There's just amazing books published every day for Christmas. But I think also my book is very, very unique in the fact that it is Santa Claus. It's told from his perspective and sort of focusing on all the magic of Christmas. I mean, presents and stockings and elves, but then Santa really trying to give us messages of kindness and love, and then, the gift of Jesus. And so it's extraordinarily different. And trying to find just an opportunity for that message to reach, the right people, and then, hopefully pop little pokes in the bubble.
Right. Well, it's again, like I said, it sounds like you're already doing that, which is so awesome. One of the things that I found to be good about, so if it's a competitive space, mm-hmm. and there's unbelievable, books being published every day, as you mentioned, mm-hmm. what's nice is if you ever decided to run ads, you've got some really easy targets, mm-hmm. because you can run ads toward whether it's an, Amazon or BookBub or Facebook. Facebook's a little expensive. I don't think I would go there right now, but you can easily target by author, mm-hmm. and you can target by title. So it's like, what's nice about author marketing, if you're running paid advertising, is we don't have to guess.
Right.
So if there's like Elf on the Shelf, your little sponsored ad can be up there for 11 to 30 cents a click.
Right.
And people can click and see through to your book.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting you brought up Amazon ads. I've tried to do a lot of research specifically for Amazon ads, because you can target so specifically. Mm-hmm. And that's been one of my main tools. There's a lot of data that shows children's books may not trend as well in Amazon ads, maybe not quite as large of a success and profit rate. But I think it's been one of the main tools that's helped me, like you said, instead of breaking in and your number whatever and it's so exciting, and then the next day you've fallen way back. I think it's helped keep me within a nice parameter, on Amazon specifically. And I think it's been a neat tool. And like you said, it is easier to target because of the genre it's in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be my concern for me if I were in your shoes, is there's nothing beyond this right now that I can monetize. Mm-hmm. So you might be running ads and losing money because mm-hmm. the profits are so small, mm-hmm. but maybe that's okay. That's the cost of keeping your rankings or whatever else. So you justify it. But if you had something else, and that something else could be another book of the series, right? it could be 3 to 5 more books in the series over the next couple of years. But if I'm in your shoes, I would want to get something beyond that so that there was an opportunity to develop more relationships and monetize that further. Right? Because I don't mind losing money on ads, a little bit of money on ads, because I know it's going to come back. I know I will monetize on that later. Right? So yeah, I think a future book in the series or something ancillary, something in addition to your book itself. To me, I would need to solve for that before I even ran ads. I'd be scared to just run ads knowing that I'm just gonna, best case, I'm losing some money. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have done it had I not known, that I'm having a second, like that there's more to this than just, I'm just going to do one book and I'm done,
Right.
There's just too much of an investment.
Right.
And when you're passionate about something, you just know you're supposed to keep going.
No logic, all emotion. Let's just do it. Let's just go for it. Sorry, honey, I'm running ads. It is what it is. Yeah. That's funny. Well, thanks so much, Merideth, for being on the show. This was really fun.
Yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. And I think you've given a lot of great insight to our audience here. Big takeaway, 2 big takeaways that I had is approach it from different angles. If you have a book and you're trying to get on podcasts, think broader than the niche you're in or your ideal reader, because that may suffocate your opportunity. Think about some other things that you're passionate about, some of your background, your experiences, life history, because you might be able to either guest on blogs or online magazines or get on different podcasts based on you above and beyond the book. I think that's important. The other thing you mentioned was the guest contributing, the guest blogging, the writing articles for online magazines. That's a great idea. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Sure.
Well, I will be getting your book, Gift to Remember, this season for sure. Some of my favorite, my favorite thing to do is at the end of a long day is to be with my kids reading. Like that's our favorite activity. Well, that's my favorite activity. Sometimes the kids aren't so excited about it, but it's kind of our little routine. Before prayers and stories, it's like let's snuggle in and read. So holiday reading is fantastic, and I'm looking forward to getting your book this Christmas. So thank you for publishing it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to follow up with you in a few months here and see how you're doing. Do you have any holiday campaigns, promotions? Like, are you thinking about this Christmas season? You must be. It's already November.
Yes. So actually exciting today for anyone who's watching, I went ahead and made the ebook free so that your listeners and viewers can take a look at it.
How do you get it?
So you can go just on Amazon, and the ebook is free today and tomorrow. So I wanted to make sure parents are busy, so I gave them 2 days.
Awesome.
So you can get it on there, and then of course you can go on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com to get the actual book itself. So
awesome. Will you do me a favor? Will you give that ebook away for free on your website so you can start capturing email addresses and names?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Because Amazon ain't giving you that data.
I know. So true.
So maybe 2 days on Amazon, but 2 weeks on my website, right?
Yeah.
I'm just giving you a hard time. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Merideth, and have a wonderful holiday season, right?
Thank you. You too.